Brandon Carlisle here with Tough Enough Movement. Today I'm just going to do a solo episode kind of talking about my life, where I'm from, things that I've done, and what's led me to this point in my life and why the Tough Enough Movement and what we're trying to accomplish. So we'll start from the beginning. I'm from Logan, Utah. It's a small town, as far north as you can go, pretty much right by the Idaho border. I was born and raised here. Three brothers, and we grew up blue collar, working hard and things like that. I love my parents to death, and I know they loved me, but there were times in our childhood that we were in environments around things that you probably shouldn't be. We were around drinking and partying and sometimes drugs and porn and fighting and yelling and things like that. They struggled financially sometimes, and they had a struggling marriage for a long time. I learned a lot of great attributes from my parents, though. I learned how to be hardworking from my dad. I learned how to be not careless, but selfless and caring from my mom. And they did the best they could, even with some of their emotional and mental struggles that they had. So we'll just start where in elementary school, I was very undersized. I was a small child, and I was kind of a little shit in elementary school. I hung out with a bad group of kids, which sounds odd for elementary, but we were in a bad side of town where a lot of the kids there were from poverty and had a lot of bad things going on in their lives. And so at a young age, I was learning things you shouldn't learn. We were learning about talking about sex and learning how to roll joints and how to chop pills, things that they'd learned from their families. And I was learning how to break locks and steal and how to fight and cuss. So I cuss, and I have cussed since I was 6, 7 years old. But I remember my first big fight, we were in second grade, and we got in a fight with fifth graders because they were bullies, and we decided to take care of it. And a group of us beat up on some fifth graders, and throughout elementary school, being undersized and everything like that, people tried to pick on me, and I learned not to put up with that shit. So I got in a lot of fights. I spent a lot of time in the principal's office. I got 2 suspensions, but mostly because for some reason the principal liked me. I spent a lot of time in there, eating lunches and on breaks and everything like that, being in trouble. And I didn't do well in school during elementary school because that's just how we were. We were kind of some troublemakers. And then in elementary school, I tried to play football because I really wanted an outlet or something to take some anger out on. And me and my brother and dad went to sign up, and I was a year younger than you were supposed to be, but also being so small, they wouldn't let me play. They sat down and they were like, he's going to get hurt. They told my dad, and I was sitting there arguing with them. I'm like, I'll be fine. I'll be okay. I'm tough. And they took my dad aside, and eventually they were like, you can't. It's too big of a problem with you getting hurt. So wasn't able to play, then went into middle school. And in middle school is when my feelings of inadequacy and depression really started. I think a lot of kids struggle in middle school because they don't know where they fit. You're not a teenager, you're kind of not a kid, you're in a bigger class setting with these different things. And I struggled, but I lost that friend group, that troublemakers that I was hanging around with. And I was trying to find myself, kind of. And as that happened, I started having these self-doubt feelings and everything like that, and didn't know how to handle these changes. So I started doing well in school and putting time into that. And then I started playing football and tackle football and wrestling. And those sports gave me an outlet and kind of a place to fit, since I didn't have that friend group and I was still trying to find where I fit in the school. I was still undersized, so I started to try to work out. It wasn't that frequent because I was young and I didn't have a lot of places to go. But I felt like if I put on size, that I'd be more manly and bigger. And so those feelings in middle school of not fitting in and not knowing my place made me to have a lot of these self-doubts. And that's when I started kind of struggling with those. And I didn't know what to do with them, but I just thought that's probably what everybody does and what everybody goes through. So it wasn't too bad, not too crazy with it and everything like that. And then got into high school, still smaller when I started. That's when I really started hitting the gym. And that's kind of where I felt at home. And that was a huge place for me to deal with these emotions, where I'd go in and work out and feel like I was getting bigger and stronger and making me feel tougher. And then I was also still playing football, I was wrestling, I started rugby. And that's where I found my real friend group. A few of them I'd known since middle school. They weren't the troublemakers as much, but we lived by each other, so we'd known each other forever. And we got our little group there. So looking at us, looked like I had a decent amount of friends, and I was doing okay in sports and everything like that. And we grabbed some more friends. But our friend group didn't really fit in any of the places. You know how you have all your groups and everything like that in high school? We just didn't really fit in all those. We were financially, all of us weren't well off and things like that. And so we weren't like the popular kids, we weren't the jocks, and we didn't kind of fit in these groups. So we just had our own. And I started struggling more in high school because, and I started getting angry. I don't know what it was about what made me have these feelings where I wasn't good enough, but I didn't feel good enough. I didn't feel big enough. I didn't feel cool enough. I didn't feel smart enough and things like that. And I started not struggling in school. I still got decent grades, but I started slacking off a lot. I learned that we could get away with a lot, that I didn't have to try hard to get the grades I needed for sports. And so during sports seasons was when I was on better behavior, because I knew if I got in trouble that I couldn't play. And I knew I had to get my grades and everything like that to be able to play. And so sports and the gym were how I dealt with things and how I coped and what made me feel better about myself. I felt like part of a team and part of that. And so I felt more responsible for them and things like that. So I dealt a little better with all these emotions. And so going into junior year, had football and everything like that and wrestling. And that's when I had my first suicide attempt was at the end of my junior year. Football season hadn't gone as planned, and neither had wrestling. And I was kind of slacking off in things. And my darkness that's what I call my depression. It had started to suck me in. And I was constantly having these self-doubts and really just not thinking I deserved to be here and that I wasn't going to accomplish anything and I wasn't going to amount to anything. So towards the end of the year there, I was out of sports season, so I didn't have my team and anything like that to ground me. And it started to spiral for me. And I got into a dark place where I just thought everybody would be better off without me and that I wasn't going to amount to anything. So I shouldn't be here. And I thought it would be easier for other people for me not to be around. And I decided that I wanted to end it. So I went downstairs and I grabbed my dad's 30-06. I loaded it, put the barrel under my chin, reached down and pulled that trigger, and I heard that firing pin hit. Nothing happened. And I just kind of sat there and started crying and trying to get a hold of what had just happened. And so I unchambered the bullet, looked at the primer on the back, saw that there was the ding and that it hit, but for some reason it didn't fire. So it kind of gave me this outlook of maybe this wasn't supposed to happen. I wasn't supposed to do that. So got my shit together for a little while. And then went into senior year, had a decent football year, pretty good wrestling year, won state championship. And at this point, I'd really been thinking I was going to play college football. So in the beginning of the football season and everything like that, I'd started sending out films and stats and all my times, my 40s, my pro agility, my vertical, things like that, sending those out to colleges, thinking maybe I could get me a scholarship so I could go and get a degree. I didn't think I was going to play NFL. I was like, I'm undersized and everything like that. I mean, at this point, I'd gotten bigger. I was wrestling 171. I played football at 180. But in my head, I was still small and slow and everything like that. But I thought I could play at the next level. And I think that I thought I was better than I was. So I was like, I can do this. So I sent that out to college after college after college. And before you know it, I started getting offers. Like, nobody recruited me kind of during season and everything like that. It was towards the end of the season where I started getting these offers, a lot of NAIAs and junior colleges and a couple of Division IIIs. And I was like, okay, I've got a game plan. I got where I'm going to go after high school. But after football season, I had picked up drinking. So even during wrestling season, started partying about every week or every other week at least. And it was a new coping thing for me. It was mentally, it got me out of my head and would kind of shut things off. And I was thinking that it helped me. And then it helped me kind of be more social. Not that I wasn't social, but I felt awkward at times. I didn't feel like I belonged. And I was always just down on myself, self-doubting that I fit anywhere and that I was a cool kid or something like that. And so after wrestling season, then I picked up smoking marijuana. And so then after that wrestling season, I started drinking more, smoking, and at the same time still thinking I was going to play college ball and deciding where to go. I was going through my offers and trying to decide where to play. And I ended up going on two recruiting trips, and I really liked the one, Santa Barbara Community College. But scholarship they offered me, it paid for tuition and books, but I had to pay for housing, and housing in Santa Barbara was ridiculous. And so I realized I wouldn't be able to afford that, and I knew my parents couldn't afford that. And then I had started having these doubts that I wouldn't be able to play, that I wouldn't cut it in college football. And it started to grab a hold of me. I spiraled again into my darkness. And at this point, I was really slacking off in school too. So I was thinking, even if I go to, I'm not going to make it in college. I'm not smart enough. So as it transpired like that, and I was drinking more, the one night we were drinking, me and some of my buddies, and it just grabbed a hold of me. And alcohol is a depressant, and it didn't feel like it at times, but it just did. And I got sucked into it. And I decided same thing again. I'm like, people will be better off without me. And, I didn't know who to talk to about these feelings. I didn't know where to talk to. I didn't think anybody wanted to hear what was happening. So that night I just decided it was time, that I shouldn't be here. So put my head in this water and inhaled, and everything went black. And then I came to with two buddies pumping my chest and water spinning out of my mouth and everything like that. And I was kind of disappointed. I thought I'd done it that time. But my buddy was pissed. He's like, what the fuck is wrong with you? And I didn't know what to say. I just was like, yeah, you're right. And I didn't assess what was going on and why I was having those feelings. And we never talked about it, really. They just kind of slapped me and were like, get your shit together. So then I still hadn't decided where I was going to play, where I wanted to go to college and everything like that. And I was like, well, I've got the summer. And at this time, my parents went through a very ugly divorce. And I got kind of thrown in the middle of it. And to get away from that and to get away from everything else, I moved out. And so I moved out with two buddies, and then we were hanging around a group of kids that didn't have goals and didn't have motivations. And I really picked up partying then. We started probably drinking nightly. We were smoking weed at least every other day. I was doing Adderalls to wake up in the morning, and then I was working some construction, doing a little bit of flooring. And that's how my summer went. Lots of partying and causing trouble. And at this point, my anger had escalated to throughout middle school and high school. It was always there. And I would start fights, and I would try to start fights, and I would get in people's faces. It was my way of showing that I was a badass, that like, and even though I didn't feel that way, I felt like if I was this tough guy that wouldn't fuck around with people, that people would look at me and like respect me. Even though inside I felt like shit and I didn't feel that way, but I felt like if I was that person, that people would see that. So at this point, it really started to kind of escalate, and we were causing all kinds of trouble. And then we started doing a bunch of dumb shit. They say that the 5 people you hang around most are the people you start to become and start to act like. And this was proof of that, because we were partying, and then we started doing really bad shit. We started breaking into places. We started stealing shit, constantly in some sort of alcohol or weed inducedness, and we ended up getting in a bunch of trouble. And so cops showed up and took us in, and we were arrested. And this time I hadn't signed anywhere. And then I realized my life's over. Like, I'm not going to college. I'm not playing football. I'm going to prison for a long time, because I looked at my list of charges, and there was close to 100 charges on there. And I'm like, I'm going away for a long time. Like, I just fucked myself. And luckily, the courts kind of took pity on us for being young and stupid. But I still end up going away for 4 months. And so I go away for 4 months, and while I'm in there, I'm trying to think of what I'm going to do and what's going to happen after. And somehow I talked USU into letting me walk on up there. So like a week and a half after I got out, I walk on to USU for the fall semester. And I get up there, and at first it feels good, because like I said, I love being in sports and being a part of a team and competing. And after a little while, it just didn't feel like I was getting recognition, because I wasn't a scholarship offer, and people, they hadn't brought me in, they'd let me walk on. And I felt like they needed to give me a shot, which doesn't make a lot of sense. Like, I just barely got there. They don't know who I am. They don't know what I can do and everything like that. Like, but I got down on myself again, and I got sucked into this hole. And then I woke up late to go to a weightlifting in the morning, and I just said, fuck it. I'm like, I'm not gonna play here. I'm not gonna make it in college football. I started having those thoughts again of, I'm too small, I'm too slow. And at this point, I got up to about 195, and I was a decent sized guy, but in my head, I still felt small. And so I quit. And then I quit school, and I started framing. Got into construction, because I'd been doing construction on and off. I've been doing, helping my dad and uncle, and in doing things. And I built fences all through middle school and high school and stuff like that. And that's one thing I knew I could do. I knew I could work hard, and I knew I could put hours in, and hard labor was fine with me, and I was good at it. So I started framing, and a lot of my family was framing, and I had cousins and uncles and everything like that, and that's who I was with. And so at this point, I'm technically homeless, because I don't have a place. We're traveling a lot, so I'm staying in hotels a lot. And then my one uncle down in Salt Lake, we framed down there a lot, so we're in Salt Lake. And then when I was home up here in Logan, I was at my other uncle's house with my cousin, and that's where I kept most of my stuff. But I didn't really have a home, and I did that for a little while, and then I moved down to Salt Lake. I decided I was going to have a change, and I was still framing down there, and then started personal training, and then I decided I was going to pick football back up again. And so I talked to U of U, and they were going to let me walk on. And I was like, okay, like maybe I can get out of this funk. And at this point, I'm still drinking, pretty frequently. Uh, Not really doing a lot of other drugs or anything like that, but that's kind of one of the things that me and my one cousin, we always did. We always partied and drank and caused trouble, and we were still doing that. But I was like, well, I can walk on up here. And so right before the season was coming and I was supposed to walk on, I had spalling out down there with some people and some roommates, and I ended up moving back to Logan. So I come back up to Logan, decided I'm going to go to school up here, and started doing flooring. So I'm doing that, and then I started dating my first wife. So we drank and partied all the time, and before you know it, I dropped out of college again. Was doing flooring, and then we ended up getting married. And then through a lot of that marriage, I was working 2 jobs, and then at like 25, we had our first kid. And at this point, I'm struggling emotionally, not terribly, but I'm drinking pretty frequently, but I'm also still partying and doing dumb shit. Like throughout all these years, me and my cousin and a bunch of other people, like I got in bad situations. Like we were drinking and driving and doing stupid shit and fighting, and my anger was still there. It started to kind of escalate still. Like I just had a fuse, just would go off on anybody. And I think that was to compensate for these feelings of weakness that I had. So, like I said, we have our first kid, and I'm working 2 jobs and everything like that, and the relationship starts to spiral and go downhill little by little, and the drinking and stuff like that continue to get worse, and occasionally other drugs, and then get to a little while later, and we have our second kid. And at this point, I'm a functional alcoholic is what I call it. I'm drinking every night. So was my ex-wife. And things really started to get bad. I'm drinking close to a fifth a night at that point, and we continue that. And then I started drinking even more. And like I said, I always thought it wasn't a problem because I could wake up in the morning and go to work. And it didn't feel like I was struggling with it, because it's like, well, I get up and I go to work and I go to the gym, and then I come home and then I drink. Like, that's fine. It's not a big deal. But it was. I drink till 2 in the morning, and I'm drinking over a fifth every night. And I think why it got into here is throughout that first time of before the first kid and the second kid, I was always competing in things. And that was one thing that kind of kept me grounded and gave me, it was an outlet for me. So I'd played, it's like a rec league tackle football for years. And that during the season was great for me. I had my brothers and my brotherhood and the team, and I tried to be a leader on that, and it helped a lot. But at this point, and then I went in after I got hurt in that, I started competing in Olympic lifting and CrossFit and powerlifting, and having those kind of gave me a drive and a reason. But after my second kid, I kind of stopped in those things, and I'd gotten a little more lost, and I was thinking that the alcohol was helping. It was a coping mechanism, but it wasn't. I didn't realize how much it was hindering me and how much it had hindered my life. And so, before you know it, things got really bad in my marriage. It had really spiraled, and we were doing some bad shit, and we were being brutal to each other. And before you know it, DCFS has gotten involved with us, and then we'd gotten legal stuff between the two of us, and I'd really spiraled at this point. And so my darkness had grabbed a hold of me. And if you've never experienced depression like that, it's just all around you. Every thought you have is negative, and everything about your life is negative. And I just had felt like a fuck up. I'm like, everything I've done throughout my life, I've found a way to fuck it up. And I was like, that's what I am, and that's what I'm going to do, is just continue to fuck things up. So it got to a point where we'd started to file for divorce and everything like that. And I decided that it would be better off for my girls, for my family, if I wasn't here. Like, I was just going to continue to fuck things up, and I was going to make people's lives worse. And I didn't talk to anybody about it, and my anger was out of control, and I'd just been swallowed. I just thought nobody wanted me around, and that nobody could help me, and that nobody wanted to help me, because why would they? I wasn't worth a damn. So I decided to end it. So that night, I took a whole bottle of prescription anxiety pills, a whole bottle of prescription depression pills, a whole bottle of Benadryl pills, a whole thing of NyQuil pills, and then I blacked out. And I came to, I don't know how long I'd been unconscious, and I started to come to at the hospital. And when I was coming to, I remember my mom being there, but it was like short snippets. It was kind of chaos. I was all hooked up to wires, laying in the bed, and I was hallucinating, and I was just loopy as fuck. And I didn't know what was going on. And then after a little while, I figured out what was happening. And they came in and told me they were going to transfer me down to Ogden. And I was like, I'm not going. They wanted to send me down to the psych ward down there. I'm like, I'm not doing that. And since I was a bigger guy, they brought in, since I told them no, that wasn't going to happen, that they'd have to make me go. They'd brought in 4 police officers, and then they had 2 security from the hospital, and they were going to escort me onto this ambulance. And so when they came in to do that, I was ready to fight. And I was like, I'm not letting them do this. So when they came in, I stood up, I leaned over the bed and stood up to fight these guys off. And that's when I realized what I'd done. Like, how bad I'd messed myself up, because I couldn't even stand. I just collapsed. My body was fucked and my head was gone. And I realized that fight wasn't going to happen. So they basically had to carry me into the ambulance. They transferred me down there to Ogden. And when I got down there, I was thinking I'd really messed myself up, that I wasn't going to come back from this, because I had this complete brain fog and this complete haze, and I still wasn't fully speaking clearly. My motor functions weren't there. My hand control, like eating and walking, wasn't happening. And I'm like, I'm going to be like this for the rest of my life. Like, and I was wishing that it would have happened, then I would have died, because I didn't want to be like that. And day by day, because I was down there for 5-6 days, day by day it got better. And then by the end of the hospital stay, I was able to walk fully around. I was just walking halls, because I was stuck in there, and I just was walking halls all the time. I was able to talk again and everything like that. And this was the point where I was like, shit, because I get a phone call from DCFS. And they told me I was going to lose my girls. That I couldn't function as a parent. And neither could my now ex-wife. And that was hard. I realized how bad I had spiraled and how dark of a place I was in. That the state was going to take my kids from me. So, luckily for me, my mom, who's always been loving and supportive, just stepped in huge. And they gave my mom full custody of the girls. And so I didn't know what to do. And I wasn't going to be losing my job. I'd still been doing flooring. Luckily, I had huge support there too, and my job let me come back. I was subcontracting, and they let me keep working. And I had to get my shit together. I was like, you might feel like a fuck up, and You might not feel that smart and you might not feel like a good person, but you're fucking better than this, Brennan. You got to get your shit together. So my divorce is going on. Again, I'm technically homeless. I'm bouncing around between my mom's house, but I can only stay there sometimes because I don't have custody of my girls. She does. And I'm staying at my grandma's and on my cousin's couch. And the divorce is going through. And I had to start working. I had to start fighting to get my life under control. So I'm having to go to classes. I'm having to go to counseling. I'm going to therapy. I'm being drug tested and alcohol tested randomly so I could try to build back custody of my girls. And it was ugly, but I knew I had to get my shit together for my kids. And seeing the way my family acted, like they were so scared for me that I had to get it together for them too. Like I couldn't keep doing this shit. So luckily for me, I'd been reintroduced to my wife now, Cammie. We'd known each other a little bit from competing and things like that. And I started dating her. And there's this song by Jelly Roll called Save Me. And in the song, he talks about drinking and smoking, making things go away, and how he's not worthwhile and everything like that. And that he needed somebody to save him. And Cammie did that. Cammie saved me. She came in and she showed me that I was better than my thoughts. That I was worth something. That I could accomplish things. And she was supportive. And she knew everything was going on. I told her about it. I didn't want to start this relationship off with any bullshit. And she supported me through it. And she was there to help me through one of my darkest hours. And not only that, but luckily I had a lot of support. My family was a huge support. Both my parents and, like I said, my mom was huge in it, in taking my girls and being there and wanting to help me through anything. And then my brothers and my cousins and my aunts and uncles, they were all around me to help too. And I think that they knew I was worth more than that. I never thought about it. I never considered that. But the way they supported me, they had to have. Like, there's no way you could support somebody like that if you didn't. And so, yeah, I start working to get things back. And I'm doing all these classes. I'm working my ass off. And dating Cammie, and then I met her kids. And I fell in love with them. They're sweethearts. And they were there too. They showed me that I was worthwhile. And I did. I picked my shit up. I was like, I've never done anything the easy way. Why would I change now? But now I'm like, I've got to get this shit figured out. And so I picked myself up and just did everything I could. Before you know it, I was getting more time with my girls and everything like that, and built it up where I got custody back. So I got full custody of my girls back, and buying a house later that year. The next year, me and Cammie got married. And now I'm at a point in my life where things are going well. Work's busy. I'm here for my kids more. I've been sober for almost 3 years. And I'm not here to preach like alcohol is terrible and like people shouldn't drink. Because I don't think that. I think if you can control yourself and you're doing it for the right reasons and you're not using it as a coping mechanism, that it's fine. But I was. And then I got to that point where I was just out of control of it. So now I just don't, because I don't want to get myself into a place like that again. And so a little while ago, I started having some brain fog and things like that. And I was thinking that maybe I had CTE or something like that, because I have all my head traumas and everything like that. And I didn't know what was going on. So I started scheduling doctor's appointments and started seeing my therapist again. And I was trying to figure out what was going on. And in one of my therapy sessions, my therapist, when we were talking about this, I was talking about not having to drive and everything like that. And he was like, you seem like you do a lot, like work-wise. And then you don't do a lot for yourself, though, do you? Like, what are you doing for yourself? I'm like, I go to the gym. Like, I still do that. That's one of my outlets, one of the things that have kept me sane for all these years. He's like, yeah, but is there something else? There's something else you can do. He's like, you used to do things like you used to play sports, you used to coach, you used to do these other things. Is there something you would like to do? And that's where this tough enough movement idea hit me. Because throughout a lot of the books I've read and everything like that, like Stephen Covey talks about service, how big service is, and how good it is for you. And then same thing with Jay Shetty. He talks about your service and finding your dharma, something that you want to do, that you look forward to, that you feel like you're made for. And I was like, I think I could help people, because through my darkest hours and my darkest times, I didn't know who to talk to. I didn't know where to talk to. I didn't even think talking was a good coping mechanism, that it was a way to get these feelings out. And it was a way to kind of rehabilitate yourself. And I was like, if I can talk to people about these things and these emotions, these feelings, because we don't, and especially as men here in the United States, we just feel weak to talk to people. That if you want to cry, or you have these emotions, or you have these feelings, you're a fucking pussy. And it's not true. Like, everybody has these feelings, everybody has emotions and these things, and if you don't work through them, you're going to let them swallow you. And I've been there. I've let them do that, because my darkness isn't fully gone. It's still there. It still lingers. I still have self-doubt, and I still have these feelings of inadequacy towards myself, but it's a hell of a lot better, because I'm in a better place, and I've learned to cope, and in healthy ways, and I've learned better things to do. I think I'm always going to have that fight within me, and like I said, I don't do shit the easy way, so I'm here for the hard stuff, and if that's dealing with that stuff and helping people deal with that, that's what I'm here to do. So I was like, if I could do something where I can talk to people and let them know what I've gone through and what other people have gone through, that it will help. So I was like, it could be the tough enough movement, where we break that stereotype of tough, that old school tough where you're just a badass, and if somebody fucks with you, you're going to punch them in the mouth, or you can go build a house, or you could do all these manly shit. I want tough to change. I want it to be, I'm tough enough to talk about things. I'm tough enough to let people know what I'm feeling and how I'm doing and what's going on and what I'm thinking. I'm tough enough to let things go. Let go of your past. Let go of your mistakes. There's nothing you can do about it. And if you dwell on it, it'll suck you in. You got to move past it. Tough enough to hold on. Hold on to the things you love and the people you love, the things you want to do. So for me, that's holding on to my family, my wife, Cammie, her kids, my mom, my dad, my brothers, my aunts and uncles who've all been there and supported me through everything. And tough enough to help. I want to be here to help people and to somehow be a resource for people. So the tough enough is just showing people that you're tough enough, and that you can be tough by doing these things instead of those negative coke methods, instead of turning to alcohol or drugs or violence or stupid shit. So the purpose of this is to bring people on, and I'm going to talk to people about their lives, the struggles they've gone through, the things that they've done to cope with things, the things that have been negative and positive and turning points in their lives and things like that. So I'll be talking to people who have gone through some sort of loss or trauma or depression or anything like that, addiction. And we'll talk about their story and what they've gone through and what they felt, and people that have helped them and ways that have helped them, because that's what you need to do. You need to figure out what helps you and what it is that keeps you going. And for me, it was always the gym. And so I'm still going to the gym hard, trying to keep up with young kids and stay in shape. And then I talk now. If I'm struggling, I talk to my therapist. I talk to my wife. I talk to my mom. And that's what people need to learn. And it's going to be different for everybody. Maybe yours isn't lifting. Maybe yours is meditation or yoga or mountain biking or anything like that. You got to find an outlet that helps you. And so hopefully as this progresses, I'm getting my website up and we'll get social medias up. And I want to show people places they can reach out. So I'll be trying to get resources of where you can go and who's there to help and what might be best for you. So I'm hoping people can reach out or come on the website and look and find these places. And so I'll also be talking to people who are there, who have been there to help and been there and seen these things. I'll be talking to teachers, coaches, counselors, therapists, art or authors, things like that will be the plan. And so as I go through this, I want to hear you guys' input. Let me know what you guys think. Get on the social media and things like that. Like and comment. Tell me good things, bad things. We want to hear your stories too. Tell me what you've gone through. What helps you. Let me know people that you think would be good to come on, and things like that. And then if you need help, reach out. Let me know. And I'm going to try to do that. I'm going to try to be there to help people, to show where you can go and what you can look for and things like that. And I've done a couple episodes and it feels good. It feels right, because I feel like there's a reason I'm still here. Obviously, because not just through my suicides, but through all the dumb shit we did throughout the years. All the accidents I've been in, the drunk driving, the stupid shit. Like, I shouldn't be here. There's a lot of reasons I should have died or killed somebody or gone to prison or done something. But I'm still here. And I think there's a reason for that. There's a lot of times that I shouldn't have been here. And I think one of the reasons is for this tough enough moment. I think it's to be able to be here to help. Because one thing that I think is going to help is that I can relate to people. I'm just a dumb blue collar grunt. That's what I tell people. Like, I've been doing construction for 20 years. I don't have a college degree. I don't have these fancy certificates or anything like that. I'm just a man who's been through some shit and seen some shit. And I've had struggles. And I've been in those dark places. I think that some reason that people don't reach out is maybe they think that some of these people can't relate to them, that they have all this special education and they've had a silver spoon or something like that, that they've had an easy life, that they can't relate to struggles and hardship, and that they don't know what they're going through. So hopefully we can talk to people that'll show you that somebody's been there. They've either seen somebody go through it or they've been there themselves. And it's not always going to be easy. It'll be a hard fight, but it's worth it. It's taken a long time for me to see that it's worth it. And I'm so thankful for the people in my life that have helped me figure that out. I'm so thankful for my wife coming into my life and being my light and just waking me up and supporting me and showing me that I'm worth more than these negative thoughts. And I'm thankful for my family for being there. And hopefully we can show you guys that there's a way to get out of things and there's a way to work through it. So I'd like to thank you guys for coming in and checking this out and listening, and hopefully you listen to more, and hopefully it's helpful in some way. Because if it just helps one person, it'll be totally worth it. If there's one person who finds help, who reaches out, who steps away from the life they're living, who gets sober, who stops that bad cycle, it'll totally be worth it. And I'm just glad to have this opportunity. So thanks for coming in, and hopefully you like what you hear.